Word for word translation: Nabhyam, on the navel, Stitam, situated, Hridhi, in the heart, Adiropya, by placing, Tasmat, from there, Udana, soaring, Gatya, force, Urasi, on the chest, Tam, thereafter, Nayat, should draw, Muni, the meditative devotee, Tata, them, Anusandhaya, just to search out, Dhiya, by intelligence, Manasvi, the meditative, Swatalumulam, at the root of the palate, Sanake, slowly, Nayeta, may be brought in. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: the meditative devotee should slowly push up the life air from the navel to the heart, from there to the chest, and from there to the root of the palate. He should search out the proper places with intelligence. Purport: there are 6 circles of the movement of the life air, and the intelligent bhakti yogis who search out these places with intelligence and in a meditative mood. Among these mentioned above is the Swadhisthana Chakra, or the powerhouse of the life air. And above this, just below the abdomen and navel, is the Mani Puraka Chakra. When upper space is further searched out in the heart, one reaches the Anahata Chakra. And further up, when the life air is placed at the root of the palate, one reaches the Visuddhi Chakra. Om Ajnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksuramritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. Thank you for coming to Bible class today. So some of these verses that we hear here of how the yogi is meditating on the Paramatma in the heart, and now we're hearing the description of how the meditative yogi, the meditative devotee, he's slowly pushing up his life air up. And this is like very similar to what's described in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, as Ramai Maharaj was explaining last week. In that 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he explains how for the yogi, he has to attain success, to go to whichever planet he wants, he has to slowly move the soul up towards his top of his head. And it's explained that he has to very carefully choose the time when he's going to leave his body. So certain times are inauspicious, certain times are more auspicious. and he has to calculate accordingly, based on the position of the sun or the moon and different times and things like that. So there's so many different regulations like that the yogi has to follow, and he has to pick only at a certain time when it's very auspicious based on the position of the sun or the moon. And at that time, if he leaves, then he can choose whichever planet he wants to go to. And we're hearing in previous Bhagavatam classes how the yogi, if he's like a pure devotee, then he'll understand that this Paramatma in the heart, he's the master, I'm his servant. And it's possible for the yogi to go to Vaikuntha. But otherwise, if it's like impersonalist, then he might think, I am that super soul, I am Paramatma. Then the best he can get is he can merge into the impersonal Brahman. And sometimes these yogis, they have this mature desires to enjoy more, to get some mystic cities or go to some other higher heavenly planets. So if they want, then using this process, they can also transfer themselves to some other planet. And one point I was thinking about, like in this 8th chapter of Gita, like Prabhupada in his purport, he explains that although in this chapter Krishna is explaining, this time is auspicious, this time is inauspicious, we shouldn't leave the body at this particular time when the sun is like this or when the moon is like this. Prabhupada says for devotees, we don't have to worry so much. For a devotee, because he's always engaged in devotional service, always engaged in hearing and chanting about Krishna and remembering Krishna, every moment is auspicious for a devotee because all the time he's in connection with Krishna. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says, that Mora Mana Vrindavan, my mind is like Vrindavan. For a devotee, because he's always engaged in Krishna consciousness, he's always living in Vrindavan, he's already there in the spiritual world. Rupa Goswami, he says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that any soul, any human being who's always engaging his mind, body and words in performing devotional service, then that human being, that soul should be considered to be liberated, although while still in a material body, that person should be considered as a liberated soul. Jivan Mukta Sauchyate. So this is the position of devotees. Devotees have, although they seem like they're still in a material body, they've already attained liberation. So Prabhupada explains in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that for devotees, he doesn't have to worry so much about this time is auspicious, this time is inauspicious, this place is not so auspicious. It doesn't matter. For a devotee, Krishna will take care. Krishna is in the heart. Krishna will takes responsibility for taking the devotee back home, back to the spiritual world. And that's the difference we see in the process of bhakti yoga and the other yoga systems, like Ashtanga yoga. So one main point that Prabhupada explains, Prabhupada gives the example of like a monkey. The baby monkey, he has to hold on to the mother by his own strength. So, but if you look at a lion, it's the mother lion who takes care of the baby lion. The mother lion, she just grabs the little baby cub and keeps the baby lion in her mouth. And this way the lion takes care of the baby cub. The cub doesn't have to do anything. So, but when the monkey, that Prabhupada compares that to Ashtanga yoga, the Aga yoga processes. In the Ashtanga yoga system, one is trying to achieve self-realization, one is trying to achieve the ultimate goal of life based on his own endeavor, based on his own power. And that's what we're seeing here in these verses here, how these Ashtanga yogis, they have to go through so much trouble just to attain perfection. They have to sit down in meditation, isolate themselves, and then based on their own endeavor, they have to do, asanas, pranayama. They have to say no to all material desires. And then now we're hearing, how through their own willpower, they have to slowly move the soul upwards, to the top of the head, and then they have to pick a right time. So all of this they're trying to do on their own endeavor. Whereas for a devotee, Prabhupada says, even if you can't remember Krishna at the time of death, even if, you're in some very awkward situations, very hard for you to think, suddenly something just happens in life and death is coming, and you just can't focus on Krishna, Prabhupada says, don't worry. Krishna is very kind and merciful. Even if you don't remember Krishna, Krishna will remember you, and Krishna will force himself into your consciousness. And in that way, Krishna will take you back home, back to Godhead. So in this way, we see the difference between the Ashtanga yoga and the Bhakti yoga. For the Bhakti yogi, Krishna, he takes the responsibility for taking the soul back home, back to Godhead. Even if the soul is unable to remember Krishna at the time of death, Krishna, he himself will forcibly come into our consciousness and take us back home, back to Godhead. Whereas for the Ashtanga yogi, other yoga processes like Jnana yoga, Prabhupada says they're following monkey style. They're trying to hold on their own endeavor, and that's why they're limited. They're trying to do this austerity, that tapasya, so many different things they have to follow. Whereas in Bhakti Yoga, it's very simple. You just give your love and devotion to Krishna, and Krishna, He takes care of everything. Even with the point of, getting rid of all material desires. Like in the next purport, Prabhupada is going to talk about how to attain the spiritual world. We need to get free from all material desires. And so for the Jnana Yogi, Astanga Yogi, Bhakti Yogi, they all endeavor to do this. They all endeavor to get free of material desires. But actually only a Bhakti Yogi is successful in this endeavor. Because in the other yoga processes, one tries to free himself from his material desires on his own endeavor. So like a Jnana Yogi, he tries to study the Shastras, and intellectually he tries to say, okay, this is Maya, this is Maya, this is Maya, this is not good, this is not good. So in his own endeavor, intellectually, he tries to say no to Maya, he tries to reject material desires, material attachments. And for the Astanga Yogi, he also does the same thing. He says no to his family, friends, rejects society, goes to a forest, sits in a solitary place, does meditation, and in his own endeavor, he tries to get free of material desires. But a devotee, what does he do? He doesn't try to get free of material desires on his own endeavor, but rather he comes and takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And Krishna, He Himself, again, He takes the responsibility of freeing the devotee from all material desires in the heart. Like one great saint, Yamunacharya, he says that Bhavanta Mevanu Chara Nirantara Prasanta Nisesa Manoratantara. So he's saying that by Bhavanta Mevanu Chara Nirantara, by serving your lotus feet, nirantara, non-stop, day in, day out, every second, every moment, continuously, nir means no, and antara means like a moment. So, constantly, non-stop, by serving your lotus feet, bhavanta mevanu chara nirantara, manoratena, prasanta nisesa manoratantara. Prasanta, all these material desires that I have in my heart, they all dissipate, they all go away. So that's the secret of the Bhakti Yogi, secret to how he's able to conquer these material desires, which even the yogis and the Jnana Yogis, they can't overcome. That's why even after these Astanga Yogis and Jnana Yogis, even after they attain liberation and merge into the impersonal Brahman, still again they fall down. So they actually technically don't attain liberation according to the Acharyas. Just temporarily they merge into the impersonal Brahman, but again they fall down. It's only the devotee who can actually properly overcome material desires. Why? Because he takes shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Devi esa gunamaya, mama maya durachya, mameva ye prapajante, maya metum tarantite. That this divine energy of Maya, the Maya, she is very difficult to overcome. It's actually impossible. The only way you can overcome it is by taking shelter of my lotus feet, by surrendering unto me. So the Jnanis and the Astanga Yogis, they're not taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. They're not fully surrendering themselves to Krishna. They have ulterior desires. And that's why it's mentioned in the Shastra that only the Bhakti Yogi, only he can fully conquer these material desires, which is in the heart. And that's why only a Bhakti Yogi can actually attain the spiritual world. And we see this through many practical examples in the Shastras, like we see, with Sobari Muni, he was also a yogi. And what to speak of, doing tapasya in some solitary place in some part of the forest. He was even doing underwater. Because even outside, the many distractions are there. So he's thinking, okay, I'll go underwater. Underwater, there'll just be fish, nothing else. Nothing will distract me. And I can overcome all these material desires. I can focus my mind on the Supreme Absolute and I'll attain, liberation. But still, he got distracted. He got overcome by Maya just by watching two fish copulate. And then we see with Vishwamitra Muni, how many times did he fall down? He fell down like 3 times. First time, he fell down due to lust. Indra, he sends one heavenly damsel and then he gets lusty and then that's it. His tapasya is gone. Next time Indra sends another heavenly damsel. I think it's Ramba this time. And this time he falls down due to anger. So this time he gets angry. Oh, this Indra, again he's coming to disturb me. And this time he gets very angry at that Apsara and then he curses the Apsara. And then again he falls down from his yogic perfection because he got overcome by anger. And then third time, he falls down from his yogic position due to pride. So in this way we see, like for these Astanga Yogis and Jnanis, although they seem to be, very powerful, doing a lot of severe tapasya and penances, because they're not taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, because they're not taking that humble position, because they're trying to achieve everything on their own endeavor, moment after moment, they're always overcome by all these anathas. Like we see Vishwamitra Muni, first he got overcome by lust, second time by anger, and the third time by pride. So the third time is when there was this one guy who wanted to go to the heavenly kingdom, but he wasn't qualified. He became, I think he got cursed by someone, he became like a Chandala, but still he wanted to go to heavenly planets. And Vishwamitra's arch enemy was Vasishtha Muni. So first he goes and asks Vasishtha Muni, can you please, send me to heaven? I want to go reside in Indra's abode. And Vishwamitra Muni Vasishtha says, no, that's not the process. If you want to go to heavenly planets, you have to follow the proper system, and then you can elevate yourself. I can't just send you there like that, look at you, you're like a Chandala. You have to get proper qualification. I can't send you like that. And then this person's name was Trisanku, right? Trisanku. Yeah, Trisanku. So then he goes to Vishwamitra, and he knows the history. He knows that Vishwamitra and Vasishtha, they're like, rivals. So he tells Vishwamitra that, I went to your friend Vasishtha, and I asked him if he can send me to heavenly planets, but he said he can't do it. He doesn't have the power to do it. What about you? You think you can do it? And then Vishwamitra, immediately he gets excited, He's like, yeah, of course I can do it, Vasishtha couldn't do it, why did you go to him, You should have come to me in the first place. I'll show you. I'll take you there straight away. So then, Vishwamitra, he had this lot of pride, in his yogic ability. And then he chanted some mantras, and then he started sending Trisanku up to the heavenly planets. So Trisanku was floating up and up, going to the heavenly planets. And then Indra saw, like, who is this, this Chandala coming up to the heavenly planets, this crazy, dirty guy. And then Indra, just with his thunderbolt, he just pushes Trisanku down. And then Trisanku again starts falling back down, back to planet Earth. And then he's crying out, hey, Vishwamitra, what is this? And then Vishwamitra, again, he chants some mantras. And then again, Vishwamitra starts elevating him up to the heavenly planets. And Indra again sees, man, this Chandala he's coming up. And then again, Indra, he throws his thunderbolt and again pushes him down. So in this way, like Radhashyam Prabhu says that this way, Vishwamitra and Indra, they start playing, football with this Trisanku guy. Vishwamitra sending him up, and then Indra is throwing the thunderbolt, he's coming down, and again he's going up, and again he's coming down. And then this Trisanku says, okay, that's it, okay, I understand, you're not powerful, you can't do it. Just leave me alone, I'm getting tortured here, going up and down, getting hit by Indra, coming down, again going up, hit. And then Vishwamitra says, no, don't worry. Okay, if you can't go to the Indra's heavenly kingdom, then don't worry, I'll create a whole heavenly planet just for you. So then Vishwamitra, with his yogic power, he creates a second heavenly planet, a second heavenly kingdom, just like Indra's one. And then, so he creates this, but then this second planetary system that Vishwamitra creates, it's not going in proper orbit. As we know, the different planetary systems, they're all going in certain orbit. And if they even like Brahma, he explains in Brahma Samhita that the sun, and the moon, they're all going according to Krishna's direction in orbit, all the planets. And even if for a second, they do a slight deviation, then that's it, So much damage and chaos can happen in the planetary system. So this new heavenly kingdom that Vishwamitra creates, this new planet, it's not going in proper orbit with the other planets, and it starts going everywhere. It starts going here, there, and everywhere. And then Vishwamitra becomes very scared, Like if it falls on Earth, then everything will be destroyed. Then finally he comes to his senses, and then he finally takes shelter of Krishna, takes shelter of Vishnu, and then immediately he calls out, Vishnu, Vishnu, please help, please help. And then Krishna comes, and then he sorts out everything, puts the second heavenly kingdom that he created, Vishnu puts it in proper orbit in the planetary system, and that second heavenly planet that Vishwamitra created, it's still there. And this Trisanku, I guess, is still there also, residing. And so this was how Vishwamitra, he progressed from being a Ashtanga yogi to a bhakta. So first he got overcome by lust, he fell down. Then again he did tapasya for thousands of years. Then again he got angry, at Indra again he's sending the heavenly damsel, I curse you like that. And then again by anger he falls down again. Then the third time he was falling down because of pride. He had so much pride, of his mystic abilities. He said, what is this Indra's heavenly kingdom? I'll create a whole new heavenly kingdom for you. He created a whole new different planetary system for him. But again, the planetary system wasn't in orbit, it was going here and there. Then finally he came to his senses, he realized that actually, I'm not the controller, I'm not perfect. I need to take shelter of Vishnu, that's the only way. So in this way, this was how, we can see in the life of Vishwamitri how he progressed, through the Ashtanga Yoga system, then finally he became a Bhakta devotee. So that's the difference between these yogis or jnanis and the devotee. So point number one, these other yogis, Ashtanga yogi, jnana yogis, they try to do everything on their own strength, on their own endeavor. Whereas the devotee, he understands that, who am I? I'm just a small, tiny little jiva, how great is Krishna, Actually, I have no qualification of my own. And in that humble mood, he comes and falls in front of Radha Gopinath and takes shelter of the lotus feet. And then Krishna, he takes care of them. Krishna, he helps the devotee progress. And even if the devotee, he can't remember Krishna, he forcibly comes and into the consciousness of the devotee and takes the devotee back. Whereas for these yogis and jnanis, they have to do everything on their own strength. And the second point was of material desires. How if we want to go back to the spiritual world, we need to be free of all material desires. And actually, it's only the bhakti yogi who can actually attain this task of completely freeing himself from all material desires. All these jnanis and yogis, no matter how hard they try, they can never overcome material desires because they're not taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he also says this, that Bhukti, Mukti, Siddhikami, Sakala, Asanta, Krishna Bhakta Niskam, Ataeva Santa. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, Bhukti, that one who's desirous after mature enjoyment, the Kamakandis, they want to go to heavenly planets. Bhukti, Mukti, those who want to attain liberation, these jnana yogis. Or Siddhi, like these Ashtanga yogis who want to get some mystic power, mystic perfection. Sakala Asanta, they're always in distress, they're always in anxiety, their mind is always agitated. They aren't free of material desires. That's why they're Sakala Asanta, their mind is always disturbed. Whereas a devotee, Krishna Bhakta Niskam. Whereas a devotee, he's Niskam, which means he's completely free from all material desires. That's why he's always peaceful and happy in his spiritual life. Okay, so short purport, so we'll go on to the next verse. Tasmad bruvur antaram unayeta niruddha sapta yatano anapekshaha stitva muhurtardam akuntra driste nirbidyamurdam risrijed param gataha. Translation, thereafter the bhakti yogi should push the life air up between the eyebrows and then blocking the 7 outlets of the life air, he should maintain his aim for going back home, back to Godhead. He is completely free from all desires for mature enjoyment. He should then reach the cerebral hole and give up his material connections, having gone to the Supreme. Purport. The process of giving up all material connections and returning home back to Godhead, the Supreme, is recommended herein. The condition is that one should be completely free from desire for material enjoyment. There are different grades of material enjoyments in respect to duration of life and sensual gratification. The highest plane of sensual enjoyment for the longest period of time is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 9.20. I think this is referring to Brahma. So Prabhupada is saying how, like we were explaining before, to go to the spiritual world, we have to free ourselves from material enjoyment. And Prabhupada is explaining how there's different grades of material enjoyment in respects to duration of life. Like if you go to higher planetary systems, you can enjoy for thousands of years sense gratification. Like birth, death, old age and disease, it's still there, but it won't be like how it's like in planet Earth. Like for them, old age will come right at the end. They'll just be in a youthful body for thousands of years. Right at the end of their life, just before they're about to die, suddenly their body will become old and they'll die. And same with disease, it won't be so prominent like how it is here in the mature world. So that's how it like, and the higher up you go, the less miseries there'll be and more enjoyment will be. Yeah. I remember in one section Bhagavatam, Prabhupada talks about Brahma Loka, what it's like in Brahma's planet. Actually over there, there's no, because everyone there in Brahma Loka, they all have a body made of intelligence. So how is it that they go through sufferings? Prabhupada explains the only suffering, or the main suffering that's there in Brahma Loka for his residents, is that they feel bad when they see the condition of all the other souls below them. So when they see all the other souls in the other planetary systems, in planet Earth and the lower planetary systems, in hellish planetary systems, and when they see how much suffering they're going through, then they start feeling very compassionate, they start feeling very morose and depressed, seeing the condition of all the other souls in the planetary systems. So that's the suffering that the residents of Brahma Loka go through. And below the planetary systems, there's the lower planetary systems. And it's funny, in 5th canto Bhagavatam, it's explained that actually these personalities that live in the lower planetary systems, their facilities for material enjoyment is actually even more than what's available in the heavenly planets. So how do we understand this? So, well, for one thing we can say is that although Bhagavatam explains that these persons in the lower planetary systems, their enjoyment is more in comparison to the heavenly planets, we can talk about, the difference is what grade of happiness they're enjoying. The grade of material happiness they're enjoying is actually very low cost. Just like a hog, a hog can just whole day just eat whatever it likes, just be out there in the open and he can eat day in, day out. Or a pigeon, he can have sex, multiple times during the day, 20 times, 50 times, 100 times. And so from that angle, it seems that they're enjoying more. But what is that enjoyment they're taking? It's actually a very low-grade type of happiness. Or just like a prostitute. It's mentioned that the greatest material enjoyment in this material world is that of sex. And a prostitute, she gets paid to do this. And she gets paid to do this for a living. Every day she gets to do it. But would you consider as a prostitute as the most happy person in this world? No. Usually you see a prostitute as someone very, not such a happy person, someone having some problems in the life, and we all understand they're not the happiest person around. So in the same way we can see in these lower grade planets, although Bhagavatam mentions that their facilities for sense enjoyment is greater, it doesn't mean that they're more happy. Their level of happiness is actually low grade. It's very materialistic, and it's very low grade happiness, like the happiness of, as Prabhupada said, the happiness of cats, dogs, and hogs, like that. And all are but material enjoyments, and one should be thoroughly convinced that he has no need for such a long duration of life, even in the Brahma Loka planet. He must return back home, back to Godhead, and must not be attracted by any amount of material facilities. In the Bhagavad Gita 2.59, it is said that this sort of material detachment is possible to attain when one is acquainted with the supreme association of life. Param dristva nivartate. So now Prabhupada is giving the remedy how to overcome all these material enjoyments, these allurements that this material world Maya offers us. Prabhupada says, he's quoting Bhagavad Gita, Param Drisva Nivartate, that only by experiencing the higher taste of Krishna consciousness, only by that can one overcome material enjoyment. So in Nectar of Devotion, in the preface, Prabhupada, he very nicely explains, how everyone in this material world, they're all engaged in a particular activity to get a particular type of rasa. Or rasa means like a particular type of, pleasure. So everyone is material world. They're doing certain activities to get a certain type of rasa or pleasure. So like a businessman, he's working very hard to start up his business and expand because he gets a certain type of pleasure, in seeing his business expand, getting more money. The husband, he goes out all day working hard for his family because he gets a certain type of rasa in taking care of his wife, taking care of his children. And, the philanthropists or these charity people, they all experience a certain type of rasa in collecting money for, a certain charity, going out and helping others. So you can take every single person from any part of society. They're all doing a particular activity, Prabhupada explains, because they're all getting a certain type of rasa, or certain type of pleasure. But Prabhupada writes that all these rasas that different persons in society are all experiencing, it's all on the mundane material level. And that's why it's unfulfilling to the soul. And that's why the soul is always trying to change different rasas. Like no one can just sit, whole day and just watch TV. Although the soul experiences certain rasa by watching TV, he can't just keep on doing it again and again, the whole day, 24 hours, because it gets stale and boring after some time. So Prabhupada writes, this is the problem with mature rasa, that mature rasa has a beginning and an end. It only satisfies us for a certain extent, That's why Prabhupada says that all these karmis out there, they all try to change the rasa. Okay, sometime I'll do this, then this time of day I'll do this, then this time I'll do that. And they're always trying to switch and change the rasas. In this way, they try to cheat themselves. Just like in TV, you have a TV remote, and the button that you press the most on the TV remote is the channel button, because you get bored watching one show in one channel, then you switch the channel to go to another channel. You watch another show, then you switch the channel to another channel. You watch this show, sometimes you watch the news, sometimes you watch some comedy, sometimes you watch some reality TV, sometimes you watch a movie. So in this way, everyone is trying to shift the rasa, because but the nature of mature rasa is that it gets boring after some time. Same thing with music. It's not that on people's iPods or the MP3s or on their phones, they just keep one song and they just listen to that same one song with the same lyrics over and over again. No, they have like 50 songs, 100 songs, 200 songs. I remember when I was studying high school, I wasn't so much into music, but a lot of my friends, they were very much into hip-hop, rap, or R&B music. And, they would always be talking about, this artist, Eminem, or, this person, he just released this new song, have you heard it? And then, for a whole week, they would just be listening to that song. And then after 1 week, they would say, oh, this song is old now, this is old school, now this new song has come out. So this is the nature of mature world, A new song gets released, for maybe a week or 2 weeks, everyone's listening to that song, it's wow, this song is so good. But after that, it gets boring, after you go to some new song. And you can't just keep listening to that same song again and again and again. You have to keep switching, on your iPod, you keep pressing next, or this song, or I'll listen to something, I'll go another one. So this is the nature of mature enjoyment. But Prabhupada writes, spiritual rasa, or spiritual pleasure that one gets in spiritual activities, it doesn't have this quality of a beginning and end. It's not stale like mature pleasure. It's transcendental, and one can derive newer and newer bliss in spiritual activities. Just like in chanting the holy name, our taste for the holy name is increasing. Like if you look back compare yourselves to 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and you ask yourself this question, how was my taste for chanting Hare Krishna 4 years ago to compare to now? We'd all say, yes, our taste for kirtan, our taste for chanting japa has increased. Our taste for singing and dancing in front of the deities has increased. I remember when I first used to come to a temple, I used to always, hate coming into a temple room. It was very awkward for me to come to a temple room and, attend artis or kirtans. So I used to always just stay outside, and just hang out there and space out, serving prasad or taking prasad. Inside was just very awkward. Sometimes my parents would force me and I would come inside, but I didn't want to have anything to do with singing and dancing. So I would always just stand in one corner around here and just stand like a statue. And everyone else will be singing and dancing, I'll just be standing, It's when is this aarti going to finish and when can I go out? But so like this you can compare, where were you before? Before we didn't have that taste for chanting, taste for dancing, for singing. It was very awkward for us to dance, Everyone else is dancing and someone grabs you telling you to dance, and it's just very awkward for you to dance or sing. But now, it's awkward for us not to dance, If aarti is going or kirtan is going, and if someone tells you don't dance, don't sing, then it's austerity for you, It's naturally when an aarti happens, kirtan happens, naturally you feel like singing out loud, naturally you feel like, dancing, going back and forth in front of Radha Gopinath. So in this way we can see in spiritual life, the more we advance with time, the rasa, it increases. The pleasure we get increases more and more. So we can see that with chanting or singing, with dancing, our taste for dancing, our taste for singing, our taste for chanting is all increasing. Same with, reading or hearing about Krishna, our taste increases. Whereas in the mundane level, the rasa that's there on the mundane platform, it's actually the other way around. The more you do it, the more sick of it you get. And that's why, to cheat themselves, materialists, they always try to switch around, change the rasa. Although it's the same quality of mundane rasa, they try to change the activities in order to cheat themselves. We'll continue on. One cannot be freed from mature attraction unless he has complete understanding of the nature of spiritual life. The propaganda by a certain class of impersonalists that spiritual life is void of all varieties is dangerous propaganda to mislead the living beings into becoming more and more attracted by mature enjoyments. As such, persons with a poor fund of knowledge cannot have any conception of the Param, the Supreme. They try to stick to the varieties of mature enjoyment, although they may flatter themselves as being Brahman realized souls. Such less intelligent persons cannot have any conception of the Param as mentioned in this verse, and therefore they cannot reach the Supreme. The devotees have full knowledge of the spiritual world, the personality of Godhead, and is transformed to association in unlimited spiritual planets called Vaikuntha Lokas. Herein Akunta Drishti is mentioned. Akunta and Vaikuntha convey the same import. And only one who has his aim fixed upon that spiritual world and personal association with the Godhead can give up his mature conceptions even while living in the mature world. This Param and the Param Dhamma mentioned in several places in the Bhagavad Gita are one and the same. One who goes to the Param Dhamma does not return to the mature world. This freedom is not possible even by reaching the topmost loka of the mature world. The life air passes through 7 openings, namely 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. Generally, it passes through the mouth at the time of an ordinary man's death. But the yogi, as above mentioned, who controls the life air in his own way, generally releases the life air by puncturing the cerebral hole in the head. The yogi therefore blocks up all the above mentioned 7 openings, so that the life air will naturally burst forth through the cerebral hole. This is the sure sign of a great devotees leaving the mature connection. So you can just see, how complicated this whole yoga process is, like you have to just move the soul upwards, and even when the soul is up there, there's like all these holes, there's your ears holes and nose holes, and only if the soul goes through one particular hole, only then you can go to a certain destination. You have to block the nose hole, the ear hole, and other holes in the body, and somehow, time it perfectly according to the astronomical objects, time it according to the sun and moon, Just reading it, we're like confused. What is this paragraph talking about? Whereas the process that Lord Gaura introduced is so simple. All they're saying, you just come and hear and chant about Krishna, sing and dance, and feast on prasadam, So simple, you don't have to, even someone with no education, someone illiterate person can easily take to this process of singing and dancing and feasting, It's so simple and easy. So should be very grateful for Lord Gaura for keeping everything very simple for us in this Kali Yuga. Okay, we're just over time, we'll stop here. Nantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagurusha Prabhupada ki jai, and Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.